There is a calm within the storm, a woman who walks not to impress, but to express something deeper, inner peace. She does not chase love because she has already met it within herself. She is not loud, yet her silence commands attention. In a world where speed is mistaken for strength and noise for confidence, such a woman becomes unforgettable. This is not about how to make someone respect you. It is about becoming someone who is already deeply worthy of it. Stay with me until the end. There is a mirror waiting for you here, a mirror that may not reflect your face, but your truth. The question is not whether men respect women who follow these 7 rules. The real question is, what kind of woman do you respect when no one else is watching? There is a quiet law woven into the fabric of the universe. What we honor within becomes what is honored without. A woman who walks with self-respect becomes like the earth, still enduring, necessary. She does not need to shout her worth into the winds of approval, because she already knows her value is not something to be negotiated. It is something to be remembered, to embody. When a woman truly respects herself, she no longer seeks to earn love through sacrifice. She no longer mistakes tolerance for strength. She begins to guard her peace as one would protect a sacred temple. This kind of self-respect is not pride. It is inner alignment, a deep knowing that her presence is not an accident and her boundaries are not burdens. They are bridges to dignity. In the mountain village of Linhai, there lived an old tea master and a young student. One day, as they sat in silence, the student asked, "Master, why do you never offer your finest tea to just anyone?" The master replied, "Because sacred water must be poured into clean cups. The cup leaks or is cracked. The tea is lost before it is even tasted. So too is a woman who pours endlessly into those who cannot hold her. Respect means choosing which cups are worthy, not from arrogance, but from wisdom." In the quiet rhythms of daily life, this can be seen in the smallest acts. A woman declining an invitation not out of rudeness, but because she needs rest. A woman ending a conversation that turns disrespectful not with anger, but with silence. A woman who doesn't allow her body, time, or energy to be currency spent on the approval of others. Her self-respect becomes her protection. Her serenity becomes her answer. Nature whispers this truth in many ways. Consider the lotus. It grows in muddy waters, yet remains untouched by the dirt that surrounds it. Its petals open only to the sun. It is not ashamed of its solitude, nor does it compete with the reed or the rock. The lotus simply is, and in that being it is revered. A passage from the Tao Te Ching reads, "When you accept yourself, the whole world accepts you." This is not a call to retreat into isolation, but an invitation to return to your essence. When a woman accepts herself, truly and without condition, she becomes immune to the winds that once shook her. She no longer begs the rain to fall or the sun to shine. She becomes her own season. There is peace in that. Peace is what invites true respect, not fear-based obedience, not forced admiration, but a quiet reverence that flows from knowing you are enough. Yet, in this journey of self-respect, there will be moments of doubt. The world may tell you that softness is weakness, that saying no is cruel, but the truth lies deeper. To honor yourself is to teach others how to love you without having to speak. It is to draw sacred lines in the sand, not as ultimatums, as prayers. You may notice the shift when you begin to live this way. The wrong energies will drift away, not as a punishment, as a clearing, and the right ones will remain, not because you pulled, but because you stood still, like the mountain does not follow the wind, but still shapes it. And then, when you have learned the art of self-respect, another deeper teaching begins to unfold, the power of silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is the most fertile space for transformation. In the moments when the world expects noise, it is silence that cuts through. It is silence that often speaks most powerfully of who you are. There is an old Zen parable of a monk and a warrior. The warrior approached the monk, demanding answers, pride rising in his voice. But the monk simply looked at him and said nothing. The warrior shouted louder, threatened him, even insulted him. Still, the monk said nothing. Finally, the warrior, exhausted and confused, asked, "Why do you not speak?" The monk smiled and replied, "Because you are not listening." True strength is not in reacting. It is in choosing us not to. A woman who responds with silence in moments of provocation possesses something far rarer than control. She possesses mastery. Her silence is not surrender, it is selection. She chooses not to dance with chaos. She chooses to protect her energy, knowing not every battle is worthy of her sword. In nature, this is mirrored in the river. When the stone is thrown, the river does not rise in anger. It absorbs the motion and returns to flow. It loses nothing of itself in doing so. Likewise, when a woman can remain calm in the face of disrespect, when she does not match chaos with chaos, she becomes unforgettable. Her silence becomes a mirror, reflecting the behavior of others without her having to say a word. In everyday life, this might look like walking away from an argument before it poisons the heart, refusing to respond to manipulation, letting the storm pass rather than trying to stop the rain. A woman who does not let herself be baited teaches a deeper truth. That peace is not the absence of conflict, but the refusal to be ruled by it. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But there is an even deeper truth hidden within. It's not always necessary to react at all. Silence is not indifference. It is discernment. It is the breath between what was said and how you choose to carry it. It is what turns reaction into reflection and emotion into clarity. To master this is to possess an invisible power. You become like the moon, quietly pulling tides without ever making a sound. Let this be your inner training to pause, to breathe, to respond with stillness when the world expects noise. Others wonder what you're thinking. Let them project and question. In that stillness, you are not retreating, you are rising. And slowly, the world will begin to meet you in that stillness. Those who thrive on drama will fall away. Those who carry calm will draw closer. And you will find yourself surrounded by a different kind of energy. One that respects your silence, not fears it. One that listens, not just hears. In a noisy world, a woman who can sit in silence becomes a sanctuary. And so the journey continues, not through force, not through performance, but through remembering that your worth is not declared in words, but in how you treat yourself. That your power is not in how loud you are, but how deeply you know when silence is enough, like a temple standing through centuries of wind and war, untouched at its center. Like the mountain that watches storms come and go, yet remains unmoved, like the lotus that blooms in still water, reflecting only the light. Walk that path with softness, with strength, with stillness, and you will never need to ask for respect. You will simply become the kind of woman for whom it rises naturally, morning light. There is a quiet dignity in the word no, a softness wrapped in steel. A woman who understands the sacredness of her own time, energy, and emotional space does not hand herself out like loose petals in the wind. She becomes deliberate, intentional, and inwardly firm. This is not cruelty. This is not ego. This is the recognition that boundaries are not walls. They are bridges to self-respect. They are an act of love, both for the self and for others. To set a boundary is not to push someone away, but to teach them the path to come closer in a respectful way. It is to say, here is where I end and you begin. Honor this line, and we can walk beside one another, When a woman lives without boundaries, she begins to fracture. She loses shape, direction, peace. But when she draws them with clarity, not in anger, but in wisdom, she becomes whole again. In an old Shaolin story, a young monk came to his master troubled. He said, "Master, I give everything to others, my time, my strength, my silence, yet still they are never satisfied." The master poured tea into the monk's cup. Slowly, carefully, kept pouring until the tea spilled over. "Why did you not stop?" asked the monk. The master smiled. "You did not hand me an empty cup. To give without a boundary is to pour endlessly into cups that are already full. Or worse, cracked. A woman must first tend to her own vessel. Only from fullness can she offer freely. Otherwise, she is not giving. She is dissolving. In the quiet moments of life, this teaching appears often. Consider a woman who has been asked to take on another task at work when she is already stretched thin. Rather than say yes from fear of disappointing, she replies gently, "I would love to help, but my current load is at capacity." No apology, no guilt, just truth. In doing so, she affirms her value not only to herself but to those around her. She becomes someone whose yes means something because it is not given carelessly. Or in love, a man seeks access to her time, her heart, her presence, but she does not rush. She lets him earn the closeness, not by tests but by patience. She does not blur lines to be liked. She protects the sacredness of her own rhythm. And in doing so, she teaches him how to honor her, not from fear, but from understanding. Even in nature, we see this. The ocean kisses the shore, but never drowns it. The trees reach upward, yet never beg the sky. The sun warms the earth, but always sets. Everything in balance, everything in rhythm. Boundaries are nature's poetry, written in time and space. The lesser-known philosopher Chuang Tzu once said, "When there is no stillness within, there is no boundary to the world." So this stillness is not passive, it is presence. It is awareness of where you end and where the world begins. Boundaries are not about separation, but clarity. When a woman embraces this truth, she stops leaking her energy into places that do not nourish her. She no longer stays in conversations that harm, in environments that drain, in relationships that take but never give. She begins to walk differently, not with defense, but with discernment. And in this discernment, another profound truth arises: the power of stillness, the freedom of not needing. To walk without need is not to walk alone, it is to walk whole. A woman who does not grasp, who does not cling, who does not demand affection to feel worthy. She is a force of nature. She becomes like the moon in its fullness, silent, luminous, and unattached. People are drawn to her not because she pursues them, but because she is rooted in herself. To be still does not mean to be without feeling. It means your feeling does not rule you. Your desires no longer pull you out of yourself. You do not mistake motion for meaning. This stillness is not the absence of love, it is the maturity of it. It is knowing that love cannot be caught like a butterfly. It must land gently, willingly, or not at all. There is an ancient teaching of a monk who walked every morning to the river to watch the sunrise. A young woman from the nearby village asked him, "Why do you come here every day?" He said, "Because I do not chase the sun. I sit in stillness, and it finds me." Such is the woman who has become the sunrise, radiant but not reaching. In ordinary life, stillness appears quietly. A woman resists the urge to double text when unanswered. She allows silence to breathe between moments. She does not post or speak to fill a void. Instead, she sits with the emptiness until it becomes full with her presence. Or she ends a relationship not because she no longer cares, but because she no longer needs to be needed. Her value is no longer tethered to being chosen. She has already chosen herself. In nature, we find this too. The flower does not bloom faster because we ask it to. It opens when it is ready in its own time for no one's gaze. The hawk flies alone, not because it dislikes company, but because it trusts its own wings. This is the essence of a woman who is still. She is not passive. She is powerful. Her detachment is not cold. It is clear. Her heart is open, but not available to all. And in that sacred withholding, she becomes magnetic. The poet Hafez wrote, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the whole sky. This is the love a still woman holds within her, not transactional, not needy, not desperate. It is quiet, eternal, and self-sustaining. When she no longer needs attention to feel seen, when she no longer needs affection to feel valuable, she rises. She becomes a rare presence in a world addicted to noise and haste. Her energy soothes not because it is loud, but because as it is complete. And slowly she realizes when she stops grasping, what is meant for her arrives, not in chaos, not in confusion, but in harmony, in alignment, like a river finding its course. The sky clearing after the storm, she begins to feel what freedom truly is, not the ability to do anything, but the ability to need nothing. And in that freedom, her presence becomes a blessing. People feel safe in her company. Men admire her not only for her beauty, but for her peace. She is no longer looking for someone to complete her. She has become the story. Story, one of stillness, of self-honoring, of quiet power. Her footsteps carry no rush. Her eyes hold no hunger. Her words offer no performance. She simply is, and that is more than enough. This path of boundaries and stillness, there is no destination, only presence, only remembering that you were never meant to be consumed, only experienced, that you are not a resource, but a reflection of the sacred, that your peace is not a luxury, but your birthright. So move gently, speak softly, say no when you must, and wait in stillness for what is truly yours to come. Like the mountain waits for spring, like the moon waits for night, like the soul waits for itself to awaken. There is something quietly powerful about a person who keeps their word. Not for praise, not for reward, but because integrity is the rhythm of their life. When a woman becomes consistent in her values, in her thoughts, in her actions, she becomes a safe harbor in a storm-tossed world. Her steadiness does not mean she is unfeeling, means she chooses to remain rooted even as winds rise around her. A woman who is consistent is not always perfect. She is predictable in the most sacred way. People know where they stand with her. Her moods do not govern her morality. Her affection does not shift with approval. She shows up, not once, not only when seen, but especially when no one is watching. In this quiet repetition, trust begins to form, like rain carving stone, drop by drop. In the writings of Confucius, there is a lesser known teaching as the strength of a person lies in the things they do every day. It is not the grand gestures, not the rare heights of passion, but the daily commitment to truth, kindness, and presence that form the deepest respect. In a mountain village surrounded by rice fields, there lived a woman who walked the same path to the temple every morning. Rain or shine, heat or frost, she passed the same trees, bowed at the same shrine, and left 3 grains of rice on a stone as an offering. One day, a traveler asked her, "Why the same ritual every day? What changes with your grains of rice?" She smiled and said, "Nothing outside, but inside, everything." Her consistency was not for the world to applaud. It was a way of keeping her soul aligned. Likewise, a woman's consistency becomes her spiritual practice. She becomes mindful of what she says, how she behaves, and how she loves, not for performance, but because these are reflections of who she is becoming. She no longer makes promises in moments of emotion that she cannot keep in moments of silence. She no longer switches masks depending on who is watching. In daily life, this can be felt in simple moments. A friend who always shows up on time, not because she fears judgment, but because she respects others' time. A mother who greets her child with patience even on the hardest days. A woman who keeps working on herself not when it's convenient, because her growth has become part of her breath. In nature, the same truth holds. The sun rises each morning whether we watch or not. The moon returns in cycles and silence. Trees lose their leaves every year not out of despair, but because they trust the rhythm of return. There is nothing rushed in their surrender and nothing unstable in their changes. A woman who is consistent becomes like this. She is not bound by momentary feelings, but rooted in timeless values. She knows that to become trustworthy in the eyes of others, she must first become trustworthy to herself. And so she honors her word, even in small things. She speaks gently, but firmly. She does not need to promise the moon. She simply becomes a steady flame. And that steadiness leads us naturally into something even more profound, the courage to grow without needing to be approved of. The moment a woman turns her gaze inward, not for validation, but for transformation, a deeper journey begins, one that requires great bravery and humility. A woman who chooses growth over approval becomes rare in this world. She is no longer dancing to be seen. She is no longer adjusting her light to avoid casting shadows. She begins to ask herself not, will they like me? But, is this true to who I am becoming? In that shift, she becomes magnetic, not because she performs, because she evolves. There is an old Zen story of a disciple who asked his master, "Why do I feel unseen, even when I am doing all the right things?" The master said, "Because you are performing for windows, not mirrors. Look inward. The applause you seek must first come from your soul." This is the essence of a woman devoted to her growth. She no longer performs. She reflects, she refines, she rises. In practice, this may look like choosing solitude over shallow company. It may look like leaving a comfortable job that no longer aligns with her values. It may be reading late into the night, in meditation at dawn, saying no to old habits and yes to uncomfortable truths. Growth is not always elegant. It often comes clothed in uncertainty, but she welcomes it because she knows the cost of staying the same is greater than the fear of change. Even in nature, the lesson is present. The snake sheds its skin in stillness. The caterpillar dissolves before it becomes the butterfly. Seed must crack open before it blooms. There is pain in growth, but there is also grace. The woman who walks this path begins to embody both. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, "If, as long as you live, keep learning how to live, say it is not age or experience that creates wisdom, but the willingness to unlearn, relearn, and deepen." The woman who embraces this becomes luminous, not because she knows everything, but because she questions everything, including herself, and she no longer needs approval to feel complete. She may still value connection, recognition, love, but these are no longer the roots of her identity. They are the blossoms, not the soil. She knows now that people may misunderstand her silence, her stillness, her decisions, and she lets them, because her growth is not their responsibility. It is her sacred journey. She no longer dilutes her truth to keep peace. She no longer shrinks herself to fit into narrow frames. She expands, even if that means walking alone for a time. She speaks not to be heard, but to be clear. She chooses discomfort over conformity. In doing so, she becomes free. Others will notice this. Some will be drawn to her light. Others may feel unsettled by it, but she remains centered, because her reflection is no longer shaped by their opinions. It is shaped by her own alignment. Kind of woman does not arrive overnight. She is sculpted in silence, forged in reflection, ground through trial and tenderness. She is not afraid to fall, because she knows how to rise. She is not afraid to be seen without makeup, without defense, without masks, because what she has built within cannot be taken away. And so, when you meet such a woman, you feel it. Her consistency gives you safety. Her growth gives you inspiration. She does not chase, but she draws in. She does not force, but she influences. She does not seek to be everything to everyone, but she becomes deeply meaningful to those who can truly see her. Between these two rivers of consistency and growth flows the essence of a soul awakened, not flawless, but real, not desperate, but devoted. And you too can become her, not through haste, but through presence, not through external change alone, but through internal unfolding. The moon who waxes and wanes, but always returns, like the tree who bends in storm, but never forgets how to rise, like the path walked one step at a time until the soul remembers it was always home. So walk gently, walk with steadiness, walk with surrender, and above all, walk toward your own becoming, not for the world to clap, but for your own spirit to breathe freely once more. If you saw a reflection of your soul today in this speech, pause and honor it, not with guilt, not with urgency, but with presence. Kind of woman who earns deep respect is not a performance. She is not born that way. She is crafted through stillness, self-respect, patience, and practice. Men may see her, admire her, even chase her. But what truly matters is whether you see her in yourself. That is why you may want to return to this journey again. Not because you missed anything, but because sometimes we need to hear truth more than once to truly become it.